Okay, let's get started. So, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Preparing NFP and Health Organisations for Microsoft Copilot. My name is Steph Ryan and I am the Marketing Manager at Engage Squared, and I'll be facilitating today's session. This session is recorded, so I have switched off your cameras and your microphones, but the chat has been enabled for you to send your questions through. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today. For me, I am based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So before I introduce our wonderful speakers, I wanted to briefly introduce who Engage Squared is for anyone on the call who may not be familiar with us. We are a Microsoft Solutions partner and we specialise in creating people-friendly technology. What that means in real time is that we help people adopt technology in a way that makes sense to them. We do that through four main practice areas. We have adoption and change management, business applications, digital workplace, and information management. And we are extremely proud to have been named the Global Employee Experience winner in the Microsoft Partner Awards in 2022 and named the Australian Partner of the Year in 2021. So we know what we're talking about. So today's session, you're all here because you want to learn more about Microsoft Copilot, which is fantastic. In fact, we will be popping a poll in the chat shortly to get an understanding on everyone's maturity around Copilot. This has been created specifically for NFP and health clients because we know that you do have specific use cases for your workforce. So today's speakers, we have got Jack Hendy. He is a principal consultant here at Engage Squared and has been with us since almost the beginning of the Engage Squared Australian business. Adrian Tan, who is a program manager at the Victorian Department of Health, and Sandra Wilson, who is a not-for-profit specialist based at Microsoft. So today's session is going to be starting with Jack, and he is going to be giving you guys an oversight into Copilot and the use cases that we are seeing already. He will then be passing on to Adrian Tan from the Department of Health to give you his personal opinion on why the department decided to embark on a Copilot pilot and the benefits that they've already started seeing through introducing AI into a government department. We'll then be passing on to Sandra Wilson, who will be providing some Microsoft updates and roadmaps so that you guys know what is in the future. And then we'll be passing back to Jack and he will be sharing how you can prepare your organisation for Copilot. We'll then be opening up the floor to a Q&A, so please make sure that you do pop in any questions that you have in the chat. We have left 5 minutes to 15 minutes towards the end to answer all of your questions. So without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Jack, who is going to give you an overview on Microsoft Copilot.
Thanks a lot, Steph. And I've popped in a poll into the webinar today, and keen for you to pop in and let us know where you're at in your Copilot journey and how much context you have around AI in the workplace, and if you've heard of it before. It'd be interesting to sort of see where different people are at. I think that a lot of people have heard a lot in the press, and it's very much of the moment, and we're seeing AI cut through increasingly all of our consumer applications and starting to trickle into the workplace now. So I'm just seeing some of the polls now. So a bit of a spread, definitely. So we've got 71% of our participants saying that they've heard some of the information, some of the hype, and you're excited to learn more. 15% a little, some haven't heard anything. And I think there's one person on here that's fancies themselves as an expert. So we might hear from you later. So thanks for taking part, and really sort of that spread across understanding and insight into AI and Copilot is consistent with all of the organizations and clients that I'm working with. And what we're seeing across the board, there's a really mixed batch. There's some super users, but then across the organization, it's a bit of an unknown. And really, Copilot is like nothing we've ever really seen before in the workplace. I worked on a number of technology rollouts for different Microsoft products, Microsoft Teams, intranets, enterprise social networks, and Copilot operates a little bit differently to those. It's not sort of one product solving a few issues. Really, it comes in, it's almost a concept, and it comes in and it requires you to think about business processes in a completely different way and actually rebuild them almost from the ground up. So you have to have a bit of a creative approach to business processes with Copilot. But just to give a really quick introduction of Copilot, it's your AI-powered assistant, backed up by the ChatGPT modeling system, which has hit the press. I'm sure you're across in some way. And Copilot provides that real-time intelligence assistance, enabling you to unlock creativity, productivity, and skills. And they're sort of the three pillars really that we sort of focus on when we're trying to roll out and look for value in organizations and when we're talking about Copilot. I want to move on to the next slide, Steph, and I sort of won't, I like to include this slide because it does help to set the scene, especially from what we're seeing with different organizations, and the energy and the excitement around AI in the workplace is really reflected in this graph. And if we look at other disruptive technologies across the last couple of decades, there's been a lead time of multiple years to get to 100 million users. Within 3 months, we were already there with ChatGPT, and the demand is only growing. And I think the demand we've seen from organizations has been, again, like nothing we've seen before. So some real energy, some real excitement. And I think that will only continue, as we see sort of other players join this space and we start to unlock those valuable scenarios. We move on to the next slide. And I think that we've been using this one and something similar to this in some of those awareness sessions that we've been running with organizations around, hey, what is Copilot and how does it help you in the context of your role? And again, it's a little different. It's a standalone chat interface where you can go into Teams and you can access the Copilot chat as your assistant and ask it questions and find information from across your whole M365 ecosystem. But it also integrates directly into your business applications that you use every day. And that's a bit of a shift in terms of, that concept for end users. It cuts through really everything you do within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, and that will only continue as Copilot's added to new applications. And we're seeing Copilot now supercharging some of the Viva use cases and some of the Viva scenarios like Viva Engage and soon to be Viva Amplify and some others in that space. So the barrier to access is very low. You can jump on and you'll see the Copilot icon within your team, within your applications. And then you can ask it in terms of those prompts. And we have the, whether you're trying to achieve answering a question or creating some content, analysis, summary, or trying to understand a concept better. And I'll share with you some of the themes that we've identified across the last 6 months, where we've been working closely with organizations to understand what it's currently doing really well and some of the gaps at the moment. It's underpinned by that natural language model. So it will understand a question that you prompt and will give you an answer in that same natural language. So really, again, sort of, lowering the barrier for getting the information that you need quickly. And all of the responses are based on your organization's information, the context or the relationships that you have within your business, which is channeling what's called the semantic search index. So instead of just a natural a keyword search, which we've been used to with likes of Google or some of the SharePoint searches, Copilot gives you hyper relevant responses based on your job role, who you work with, what department you're in, what location you're in, and so it can cut down that time where you can get what you need quickly. And I think underpinning all of this, and this is one of the questions we get a lot, is, well, what can I just find anything through Copilot across the organization? What if I can I pull up someone's meeting notes or transcripts or someone's secure and private information? And Copilot will only access what you have permission to access. So just a nice point to underline. We can talk about some of the prerequisites as we go through this, maybe get into Q&As as well. But just to set the scene on sort of what it is and where it integrates and some of the outputs of Copilot, wanted to sort of round that off for you. We move on to next one, Steph. And look, we wanted to touch on Copilot Studio in this session. I think it would be remiss of us not to include a bit of a mention to Copilot Studio. Clients get really excited when we talk about this in some of the engagements that we've been running, over the last 6 months. We won't focus too much on this today, but just to give you a sense of the opportunity and some of those advanced scenarios around Copilot Studio. And so firstly, I'll define Copilot Studio. With Copilot Studio, you can create a custom Copilot for specific roles, use cases, or personas within your business. So if you have a very specific role, it might be answering questions in a call center, or it's a hyper-tailored, hyper-specific process, then with Copilot Studio, you can start using the smarts and the power of those large language models and that generative AI to help to tailor responses that are specific to your organizational requirements. So really, this requires sort of the creativity of your sort of requirements and solutions that you want to find. This can really be scaled up really wherever you want it to go. So pretty exciting, a bit of a can of worms, but I think that it's worth mentioning here because it helps to paint that picture of the journey and almost sort of the what's possible with Copilot and some of the different ways we can get maximum value from it. We move on, Steph. Thank you very much. So we've been using this one in some of the conversations we've had with our clients around what Copilot is and what it's not. And I think that it's really important to clarify this up front and to help paint that picture around almost sort of, on the one part, it's sort of managing expectations, and also it's allowing you to focus on where Copilot can give you most value. So I'll just quickly sort of chat through these and maybe sort of debunk some of those myths or some of those worries or concerns that you might have about sort of AI in the workplace and what it's here to do. So by name and by nature, it's Copilot. It's there to sit alongside you and assist you. It's definitely not looking to replace you, or work independently to execute any any processes or tasks that you have. It's very much there to support the prompts that you issue into it and to assist with your with that drudgery of the work that you're executing, the admin, the summarization, and the getting started. Really, one of the ultimate goals is to boost that productivity. And I think a lot of the time we get asked questions around complete end-to-end process automation, which is which might be sort of a natural jump to think about sort of AI, it doing everything for you. But it's definitely not here to sort of press start and it goes to the end. So it's looking to assist you in that area, and helping you find the questions to ask and the answers to receive rather than deciding them for you. Requires your inputs. And I think that's a common theme with Copilot. The outputs are based on the quality of your inputs. If we go to the next slide, Steph. So some of the themes that we've sort of uncovered with the organizations we've been working with, and where to focus some of that initial energy with different teams and with different users, is really focused around 3 core scenarios that can be tailored to different parts of your business and to different people and roles within that. So the first one is the meeting scenario. So better meetings, and really sort of that's underpinned by the ability to summarize vast amounts of information quickly, so it can give you actionable next steps and meeting notes. Really, really powerful use case, and is by far the most adopted, the most used. People get it. When you open up Teams meetings and start recording the meeting, you can leverage Copilot to take all of your notes and then interrogate that transcript and those notes based on what you need. So if you want a light summary, if you want an in-depth summary, if you want to know what somebody said, key topics, pros and cons of what was discussed, it can be a really valuable source of information, not just in the way of notes and a summary, but as you can take the output of that and then use it to start building out a document or any other deliverable that you need to do. So it can actually be a start of a workflow. Really powerful use case, and people sort of get that one very easily. The second is creating content, and whether this is helping you to break through the inertia of starting a document that you might need to deliver as part of your role, or if that's starting, helping you to start an email, or change the sentiment or the tone of the words that you're using, in your role. This is a core scenario that works really well at the moment and is providing real value for users. And finally, finding information. The ability to be able to quickly scan through your whole Microsoft 365 ecosystem and get tailored responses is really valuable. And we've seen this manifest in some real life use cases where you might have a support team within an organization, and they're supporting platforms and projects and initiatives across the business. People ask them about projects or platforms they launched years ago, and it's hard to keep across that information. By using Copilot, you can access some of that historical information really quickly with links and citations to documents, that will provide more information. So some really powerful use cases. Moving on, and look, we wanted to give you some, a bit of a playback of actually on the ground, how is this helping organizations? And we're sort of just wrapping up an initial part of a Copilot pilot for the Department of Health and Department of Fairness, Families and Housing. And that pilot consisted of our the model that we've been using around research, discovery sessions, and we've been talking to some of their key users around pain points and some early opportunities that we can use Copilot for. And these are some of the insights that we received. So we can access, and you'll be able to access through Copilot, the Copilot dashboard. Now there's a couple of, I'll just touch on this quickly. There's a free seeded Copilot dashboard that you can access and get some high level information, and then there's an in-depth Viva Insights dashboard that's a premium offering, which allows you to see all of the information and all of the data around how many people are using Copilot, what they're using it for, time saved, comparisons for different groups. Some really rich data there that you can access and get some insight to. We've extrapolated some of that to sort of build in these playbacks. And we can see here in a 28-day period, 800 Teams meetings were summarized. And this is, a pilot group of about 100. And when we're looking at, time saving for, how to quantify that saving, some of the early research that Microsoft has executed, which can be found in their Work Index report, states that there's about 32 minutes saved per meeting based on being able to have notes automatically captured, actions, next steps, on average about 32 minutes per meeting. So if you look at that sort of against the 800 meetings summarized for that pilot group, you can start to extrapolate out some real life sort of cost savings that that can mean real productivity gains and more time back for you guys. Some of the other stats here, we surveyed our pilot users, and overwhelmingly positive sentiment around being able to summarize quicker, capture actions quicker, and overall quality of the experience better. And I was actually catching up with colleague yesterday, and they said, you know, the time saving's great, but actually being able to be fully present in a meeting and listen, understand, and execute based on based on the content itself, knowing that it's being captured is a massive win. We have some sort of comments here as well that back up the time saved and being able to focus back on what matters. We pump on. And also quickly here, just some insights and where what we discovered at the department around document creation. So in the same 28-day period, over 400 documents had been created using Copilot. So really cutting through that process, and I think everyone can attest to feeling that inertia when staring at a blank page. Copilot can get you started, and that's a big win. Lots of people were saying that getting to that first draft quicker is imperative. Again, overall quality is a massive win. And finally, coming on to, and this will sort of this will round off my initial presentation and discussion with you guys today, but just to leave you with a real life story from the Department of Fairness, Families and Housing around how Copilot was able to automate a fairly tedious risk assessment process that was taking place in the department. So at the Department of Fairness, Families and Housing, there's a team that's dedicated to ensuring that properties across Victoria are safe for people to live in. And they do this by delivering client risk assessments on all properties to make sure that there's no risk of fire and that they're safe. Risk assessments only last 12 months before they expire and that they need to be reassessed. And so there's a huge database that captures all of this information. But unfortunately, within that database, it wasn't able to notify this team member who was working in that asset management team. It wasn't able to notify of upcoming expirations for those risk assessments. So this had to manually be trawled through on a regular basis, and that information pulled out around those expirations. So this very industrious team member within the asset management team had heard about Power Automate and about some opportunities to automate processes within Microsoft 365. Took it upon themselves to consult Copilot around the best way to automate this process. And with back and forth over a fairly short amount of time, was able to come up with a solution that automated this very tedious process. And the value that we can see from that has been great. And when we start to sort of quantify that value around how does Copilot help, there's three key pillars that we focus on: speed, quality, and effort. And really, this case study, and why I like it so much, is that it really ticks every box on that value matrix. It saved to create that process. It saved about a day's worth of effort, trawling through training videos and asking other people and expertise and other bits and pieces. The quality of the outcome, given the expertise of the individual, had no previous context of Power Platform. So they actually said they wouldn't even have attempted it if they didn't have Copilot to sort of consult and get that first step. And the overall effort has been to remove a really manual, really tedious search process, on a database of tens of thousands. So that's a story that I love, and some real life benefits that we've starting to see with Copilot. And I'm not sure if we have Adrian on the call with us, but I think this is a good point to bring him in. I think if we've managed to, there's Adrian. So and yeah, Adrian, as we sort of segue in, maybe if you just want to introduce yourself to the cohort.
Morning all. First of all, excuse my voice. I've managed to catch a cold over the last 24 hours. I lead the Office 365 or M365 and platform team at the Department of Health, and we provide both support and development services to both Department of Health and Department of Family Fairness and Housing. And we undertook what we call an assessment of Copilot over the last sort of couple of months, primarily so that we are as informed buyers, if you like, of the service as we can be moving forward. And nothing sort of beats, having a look at it yourself, putting a control group in to go through some specific scenarios that we had in mind to understand what we should be using Copilot for, and equally, what Copilot can't do. I jokingly said to some of the executives, Copilot can't do everything, because I asked to make me a coffee in the morning and it didn't. So it's one of those things that I think it's for us to be as informed as we can be, educate our stakeholders within the departments as to what Copilot should be used, what scenarios Copilot actually is very useful, and what scenarios it may be less useful. So that's what, that was one of the primary reasons why we undertook the assessment, is just so that we could see for ourselves, as opposed to just listening and hearing from Microsoft about their new service. We could see for ourselves what it could do within the context of our department's scenarios.
Yeah, good stuff. And Adrian, I know that we obviously ran through those scenarios in a couple of months on the ground. Sort of sentiment from the users. I know we sort of ran that survey, and it's fairly positive. But sort of from your perspective, sort of people that you spoke to, what was their sort of sentiment, and any sort of issues or wins from their point of view?
Sure. So I think from a meeting perspective, I think that was probably the one that stood out the most for the group that was part of the assessment in terms of how to use it within teams, and as Jack, you said through your presentation. So, it's not necessarily about the time you save when you're in a meeting, but being present in the meeting and being able to concentrate on the meeting that you're actually included in, as opposed to trying to take notes, etc. So that was probably one of those scenarios that sort of stood out. Even today when I was talking to another project team, and they go, Copilot would have been really useful in this instance, be able to summarize our meeting and take notes, etc. But that's something that I think there's a real positive in terms of that specific scenario, and the other scenarios around creation of Word documents and other documents, and how to do the research. I think that's also really important. But again, the assessment for us was to also take the opportunity to ensure that we had our cybersecurity team, our legal team across what Copilot means, and therefore then do all the homework that we need to do, and all the checks and balances on our side when it comes to clearing it by our cybersecurity team, ensuring PIAs are done appropriately, etc. But some of the learnings that we have, and realistically, we probably wouldn't have seen it until later, or when we committed to it, was around questions from our records management team around, what this, having a transcript for a meeting, is that a record, etc. So we're working through that, and it gives us feedback, real world feedback, as we work through and update the department's policies around information management in general, but how does AI sort of fit in as well. I think one of the key things about Copilot, and it's something that one of the Microsoft people had mentioned in a briefing that we had, because AI means different things to different people. There's some nervousness around what AI can do, but Copilot, his description of Copilot's not AI. Copilot uses AI, and I think that's one that it's a message that's really important. At the end of the day, it still requires a human being to make a decision. Copilot's helping you do some of that research upfront, taking away some of the more monotonous tasks, but it doesn't make decisions for you. It doesn't send anything on without your guidance or your express commitment. So those are the things that for us was really important to understand, be able to educate our stakeholders within the department about what Copilot can do, how to use it, in what scenarios make sense to use it, and because it's not going to be the answer for everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that one of the biggest concerns, Adrian, is when people are thinking about Copilot, is that sort of security piece. What will people find? And again, I alluded to it previously. It all depends on how your system's set up. How robust your permissions are, how robust your SharePoint infrastructure is, and that was a real sort of concern with the department. But I'm right in saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian, there was extensive testing happened at the department, and
Yeah,
actually,
so we did do a bit of testing around that because there was some concerns around that. But the messaging that we sent internally to the assessment group as well, we gave them the opportunity to reach out to us as a project team if they had any concerns about information that they were seeing as part of the assessment, because that's more about us understanding our information management practices within the department. It's not that Copilot found something that it shouldn't have found. It's more about us, understanding and securing information better. So I see it as an opportunity where if Copilot does find something that people shouldn't probably have access to, that we give those people the opportunity to report that quickly, and then we action it by working with the site content owner and helping them secure that information better. The reality is that with or without Copilot, someone was going to bound to stumble on that information at some point.
yeah,
I think it's better that we know about it early so we can jump on it early.
yeah, for sure. Great stuff. Thanks so much, Adrian. Yeah, it was we uncovered a lot through that project, and we're sort of still trickling along as well.
Yeah,
When
and I think it's one of those things. We wanted to undertake the assessment, and now we're in a position where we'll be writing up a recommendation as to how we think Copilot can be applied within the department. Now, that's the next phase for us, but it was important for us to do this assessment so that we had some real world information that we can actually include, and also take the opportunity to, like I said before, to do the initial checks around cybersecurity, LPIA, but also then to actually start educating some of our senior stakeholders about what it is and what it isn't. Um, in this instance, it was just important to do that. From the department's perspective, the focus is always to try and maximize our investment in different platforms, etc. So this was just an extension in the investment that the department's made in the Microsoft side of things. We need to keep up to date in terms of the new services and capability coming. There's also been a lot of interest in AI in general in terms of how can that be applied. It's the buzzword in some ways in the technology, but how can that be applied to be able to provide better service to citizens, etc., through the different areas that the departments need to do. Again, what better way of actually learning about it by just getting your hands on it, putting it in a controlled environment and getting the results that you need, and then being able to articulate what it should look like moving forward.
Yeah, look, and it's a good point. I'll just briefly expand on that before we jump over to Sandra. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing that sort of model with organizations, that pilot model, that sort of get your hands on it, sort of almost build the build that awareness, and then then start to build that business case for the value that it will provide. And we're seeing lots of organizations really keen to get to start building out that business case, so you can play back to management, the broader organization, around where it will fit in with your business, and every business is different. But thanks so much, Adrian. I'm conscious of the time there. That was some really good insight, and I think we might jump over to Sandra now for a bit of an overview around what's on the roadmap and what we can expect in terms of those updates. So Sandra, over to you.
Hi everyone. So I need to apologize for my voice as well. I got a flu during the weekend, and then at the end of it, I need to apologize for me joining the phone as well because I got a power outage in the house. So one of those days, but I'm still can talk about the updates and then the new things coming out for Copilot. The slide I found and is public at the moment is the Ignite 2023. As you can see that it's a bit old, but however, it still got some of the features that probably not out yet or in the preview. So as you can tell that from Copilot, the updates are actually slower than other product, but that's fine. The reason of that is we have done a lot of a test internally to make sure that we deliver the solution out and working properly. So since last October, I started to experience the Copilot within our tested tenancy, and I can see that there's actually a lot more functionings coming out very quickly. So I'm gonna quickly walk through a couple of this functionality along with all different Office applications. So on Teams, very soon that at the moment, like in my test tenancy, which I have a lot of preview features enabled, and I can test out, I can see that definitely the capture the conversation, or you go to a Teams chat, you can actually, instead of we used to do a search for a conversation, you can ask Copilot to grab a summary of a conversation certain timestamp, which is actually quite a cool feature. And also definitely we all know that meeting minutes, and then to summarize of meetings, all of that is very helpful in Teams. The M365 Copilot will be a little icon in Teams as well, and you will be able to actually go there to generate a lot of questions through there, rather than using kind of web browser or something. So we're trying to make sure that it's centralized spot for you to get the information you need, rather than you have to jump in between different applications. Another thing in Outlook, which there's two big functionalities I have already tested out, it's in preview, will be GA soon, is one is while you have a thread of email and then you want to actually, move on to a meeting with the group people in the loop, you will be able to click one button and say, okay, I want to schedule a meeting with everyone, and then in the meeting invite, it will automatically pop up with the summarize of what have been discussed through the email thread, and also give you a pre-pumped agenda. So I've been using that quite a lot. A lot of customers come to me and say, hey, how did you get that summarized, written down in your email, in your invitation? And I'll have to explain that, hey, this is a previous feature, and then will be enabled very soon. And I use that quite a lot in my demo. That's one of my favorite feature. And in Word, it was actually quite a lot of things coming up very soon. So one of the things is you can actually catch up and understand what has been changed in the document, which is very useful for people generating or modify Word documents all the time. Like yesterday, I was talking to a customer legal department. So they actually adjust the document quite often as a team. So this will definitely help them to understand, okay, what has been changed from last year to this year, who actually modified the document, is that accurate? It's easier for people to do it and review it. So that feature will be very useful for people generate documents, working on the Word all the time. Excel is another one that I have been experienced that. I'm definitely not Excel person expert, so I have no idea. All I have been using is that's it. So because I don't need to do that much on Excel. However, when Copilot came out, I actually practiced a lot on Excel. I'm trying to learn it, trying to create the pivot tables, and I actually bought a math the mouse mat and has all the shortcut for Excel, trying to teach from there. But what I noticed is so if you are Excel guru, you use that every day, you might find, okay, why bother? Because you know how to use it. But think about from say from a junior, right, starting their career point of view, and how to actually settle them down from a new job and learn everything quickly. The Copilot definitely will be able to help on that. So Excel functionality is at the moment, it's probably preview, so you might not be able to see it, but I haven't been playing with it. It's very cool. You can ask a what if question on Excel. Say, what if that one column number all increased 15%, and then create a pivot table based on that result. So you can actually using words to ask the Copilot do those work for you. Definitely for me, I just learned a lot about Excel since I started play with it. I'm still not a guru. Yeah, no doubt on that, but I'll get better. Yeah, for whiteboard, and I don't know for people that actually in the new teams that it's gonna be a whiteboard icon in the Teams meeting, and that will allow you to bring whiteboard out during the meeting, rather than you have to open another application. I think that's a great improvement. So with the Copilot enabled on that particular whiteboard, it will be able to turn the meetings into someone's set something into actually whiteboard notes. So we'll be showing on the whiteboard. That will definitely help saving a lot of time. Or a lot of people are vision person, like I am the same. I tried to teach my son yesterday about golf, which I just learned a little bit about it, but he's 6 years old. I trying to teach him on the rules. So I said a few times and he couldn't get it. I have to actually sit down, draw it out, to say, okay, so what is like out of bounds, what is birdie, and things like. I'm not trying to show off. I just learned that the other day. So but then he gets that right. So a lot of us, it's a visual learning person. So whiteboard is always been a great tool to leverage during the meeting. It actually doesn't matter which role you are doing. Always good to do summarize, write down your thoughts, and to brainstorm, and also do a kind of a diagram on chatting as well. So Viva, if you actually have Viva enabled, and there are quite a lot of AI enabled stuff coming out from Viva, because it's Viva is very one part of the Viva. It's very large, broader suite, has a lot of functionalities included, but it's quite a focus on the end user experience and then efficient in kind of a CRM platform, sales progress. So those AI capability will be enabled for Viva as well, integrated with the teams. So yeah, so that's be all the new updates, but there are more. If you want to know more, reach out to your Microsoft account team, and we do have an NDA progress have to go through to be able to see the new updates. But yeah, if you're NFP customers, happy to reach out to me.
Great stuff.
Thanks.
No, thanks so much, Sandra. And some pretty exciting stuff coming up there, and there's only going to be more. And as we approach Microsoft's flagship conference, Ignite, which will be in November this year, we'll see a ramp up of lots of features. We always do around that time of year. So over the next couple of months, keep an eye out. There's going to be some exciting stuff. But thanks so much, Sandra, for that. Look, before we get on to some Q&A, some questions, there's lots of content we've discussed today. And, as I said, we're talking to lots of organizations, and it can feel a little overwhelming around where to start. So, there's a few steps you can take, but probably the first one should be, if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, there's some potential here. If the cogs are starting to turn and you're thinking, I'd like to have a look and get started and see what the potential is, and also see if you're eligible, in terms of your technical environment and your setup. If you're in that position, step one, we've come and have a chat with us around designing that business case. It's a couple of workshops that we'll run through with you around that technical readiness. Where are you at? Licenses, update channels. Have you got your Microsoft 365 apps deployed with on your PCs? There's a few things. Migration into the cloud. In terms of your content, in terms of your setup, there's a few things we can share with you. Some of the insights that we've found with other clients. So the technical readiness, then we can paint that picture. We call it the art of the possible, but showing you live demos of those scenarios in action. How does it work? And again, sort of, the penny will drop and you can start thinking about how it will apply to your business. And then the final component of that initial engagement will then be building the plan. Where to from here? And again, we can sort of share some of those insights around, pointing you in the right direction, because there's a lot of noise around this subject at the moment. It can feel a little overwhelming. So we'll pop a link into the chat. Reach out if you want to know some more. There are other steps there that will probably come after around that security uplift. What's your content? How secure is your content? Permissions. A broader pilot. And then scaling that rollout and implementation across various teams and businesses. But what we're seeing is getting in and having some of those initial conversations are really helping organizations. So reach out and have a chat. Great stuff. And I think that concludes all of the content we wanted to share with you today. Hopefully that was fruitful for you, and it's maybe hopefully you know more now than you did before, or it sort of has excited and energized you to research a little bit more some of the opportunities with Copilot. I'll probably hand back to Steph to open the floor to questions. You're on mute there, Steph.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jack, for all of your insights. As I mentioned at the beginning, Jack is one of our principal consultants within our ACM team. So he is absolutely the right person to be talking about adopting Copilot into your organisation. Thank you to Adrian, who is just a great advocate for how a government department is doing it, and of course Sandra for all of the updates. So thank you to you three. I've popped a link to a form, a very, very short form. We'd love to chat to you guys about workshops, as Jack has spoken about. So if you are interested, please do make sure that you fill out that form. I will be sending out just a recap of this webinar along with a PDF of everything that you've seen today, a link to the recording, and also that form. So don't worry if you can't click on that form right now and fill that out. One thing that we wanted to do now is just open up to the floor. You've heard from Jack, Adrian and Sandra. What questions do you have? Do you have any burning questions and you'd like Jack to answer them today? Pop them in the chat or raise your hand if you'd like to come off mute, and we'd love to address them. So let's see. Is anyone going to be brave enough? It's always at this stage where people are quiet. Does Copilot automatically create follow-ups as tasks from meeting insights? This is not something that works in Teams Premium, so wondering if Copilot is different. And that is from Deb. So Jack, are you able to answer that one?
Yeah, thanks, Deb. At the moment, from the summaries and the actions that it will generate within meetings, it gives you a pretty comprehensive list of who the action's for, and a list of priority actions. It doesn't yet put them straight into a to-do, and I think that's part of sort of what I was discussing at the start around some of those automated processes, that sort of connective glue between these AI scenarios, Copilot scenarios. It doesn't sort of it doesn't sort of automatically go end to end yet. So there's still some manual steps in between, whether that's popping those into to do, as tasks yourself, or whether that's reviewing a document, for editorial, accuracy. It depends. So not quite yet, Deb, but we're seeing more and more stuff. And just quickly on that, with the really exciting stuff that Sandra shared about whiteboard, about taking insights and putting them straight into whiteboard. So we're starting to see a bit of that stuff. Not quite yet to do tasks.
Thank you for that one. Okay, next question is from Laura. Does Copilot hallucinate like some other AIs do?
Look, I think this is a proviso with any AI. You need to take caution. You need to vet. You need to proof. So always err on the possibility that it will. So do your due diligence.
And as somebody who works in marketing, and I know that marketing experts have been worried about AI and Copilot, is it going to take over our jobs? You will always need that human interaction as well. So Copilot is there and it's an amazing tool to use. But people will always need to be involved too. So that's what I tell myself anyway. Okay, next question is from Mike. Are you able to engage with Copilot in different languages than the content? E.g., can I ask a question in French and get to find content in English?
Yeah, so what Copilot's doing really well at the moment is translating content. It does really well. And it's I know we can do this on websites and different applications already, but Copilot again superpowers some of those scenarios. In terms of input in one language and output in another, I think there's still a bit of way to go on that particular scenario, but translation, it does very well, and I think we'll just see it improving in that space.
Can I jump in a little bit on that? Because I know that we're doing internal testing at the moment. It's a pilot going on. So with the actually current technology, what we're trying to create a use case is you bring, say, French document into a folder. That will come out as English. So you can see an English folder, a Japanese folder, Chinese folder, French folder, and then you bring into that folder, translate automatically for you into that particular language. So that in the testing at the moment in Microsoft. So once that actually happening as a use case, we can share with people, and you will see that is amazing. I have seen a little bit of that. I was like, oh my gosh, that just changed the world for a lot of people, isn't it?
Amazing, awesome. Thank you for adding that in, Sandra. Okay, next question, Lisa. For those with a Copilot license, is there any need to retain a Teams premium license too?
Yeah, look, I think this is sort of a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Sandra wants to input on this one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first and now adding, or I can jump in and talk about that.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
Yeah, Teams Premium is more for Teams functionalities. So it's very focused on, say, you got like webinar functionality, you got end-to-end encryption for more than one users, participant, and you have that security layer as well. But the Copilot is very focused on the entire Office suite. So it covers that kind of your emails, and then all other application sales, and as I talk about Teams included as well. There are some functionalities that's similar, but not exactly same, because from the back end that the integrations with the large language modeling is very different. So I would say that I've seen customers have both enabled for different use cases. So some group of users need a Teams Premium. Some users are actually better on Copilot. Depends on the role, depends on the job. And we do have a document, and to reach out to your account team, we do have a document to explain what's the difference between Teams Premium and a Copilot. And you can see that's actually very different product. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Sandra. Okay, we've got two more questions. Another one from Deb. Can you edit the AI generated notes to correct any AI blips?
Absolutely, Deb. Yeah.
Great.
100%. 100%. And it will actually come up in terms of an AI generated response. It will say, this response has been AI generated, please check. So it will prompt you, and it will ask you if you want to keep it, and encourages you to put your spin and proofread yourself.
Once again, human interaction. We're not going anywhere, guys. Okay, and then the last question there is from Kendall. I understand there is a 2,000 character limit for instructions. Any chance this can be expanded? Sandra, that's probably a question for you to answer.
Just give me 1 second. I'm reading the question again. Okay, so so far I haven't seen that as an update yet, but I can follow up on that particular one.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
Not as surprising that it will be if there's a request coming up. Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. And we've just had one last question come in from Sonia. If you have time for another one, are there plans to implement Copilot in Entra ID for group and license assignments?
That's a great use case, Sonia. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything sort of on the immediate roadmap, but we're starting to see Copilot feed into both front end, back end instances of Microsoft 365. So when we're talking about some of these use cases, it wouldn't surprise me that we'll see it soon enough. But I think that's a really good one, actually, probably for a user board, for a bit of a feedback to Microsoft.
So Copilot will be, no, I don't say is, it will be enabled for from Defender point of view. I just need to double check from the Entra ID. It's all coming up as a whole platform. If Microsoft does run some of the they call it a security Copilot webinars. They actually brought up some of the unified portal, and you can see there's a kind of Copilot capability enabled in that portal. I just need to double check on Entra ID whether that will be part of it or that's only on the security side. But it's a great question. I would like to see that too.
I know, having been across lots of license assignments and how sort of laborious and time consuming that is, I think that's a great that's a great suggestion.
Really is. Well, thank you so much. We've gone slightly over time, so I do appreciate everybody who's still on the call. As I say, a big thank you to today's speakers, and I hope that everyone who is still on the call has taken something valuable away today. As I said, I'll be following up with a link to the recording, a link to the form if you're interested in a workshop, and also a PDF of what you guys have seen today so that you can take that away with you. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to me. I can always direct your questions through to one of our speakers today. But thank you very much. And this won't be the last that you're hearing about Copilot, and this hopefully will not be the last Copilot webinar you are attending either. The space is only evolving, so this is definitely something we all need to keep on top of. So well done for starting your Copilot journey, and we hope that we will hear from you and see you soon. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.
Cheers.
Thanks,
guys.
Cheers. Thank you.